Okay. Hey, I think we're live now. I'm here with my buddy Noah. I'm Jay Real. Hey, Noah. Um, and yeah, it's finally we got a cold front come in Texas. I'm still half naked, but uh, it's not as bad. It's in the low, upper 70s, low 80s. And we're supposed to have a couple of rain chances coming up in the next few days, and maybe another cold front knock it down even lower. So, finally getting cooler in Texas, and so yeah, that's feeling good. And hopefully for you guys, I'll dress up here a little more pretty soon. Um, I ordered me some good winter clothes from Timu, so and I'm wearing my duck shirt from Timu here. So, um, and did you guys have fun yesterday watching TV? uh, I'm reminded of an Eminem song. Guess who's back, back again. uh, and no matter where you lean on, supporting Trump or not supporting Trump, what choice do we have now but to hope for the best and hope he does us right? You know, he's doing it. He's going to do it again. So hopefully he's learned something for the first time, and yeah. But really, that's the only choice we have is just to hope for the best and to go for the ride. And yeah, uh, and I know some of you guys watching this are delighted by yesterday's results, and some are not delighted. Uh, but I don't talk politics, so I'm not going to get heavily into that. But yeah, let's hope he does us right. That's the best we can do. Is hope for the best. Um, but yeah, we're going to continue with the list of Rotten Tomatoes top 200 horror films. I don't know if we'll finish tonight, but we'll definitely take a crack at it. And I guess we'll get started. Uh, and for me personally, the movie we're going to start with is just flat one of my favorite films. Period. Uh, I don't even necessarily know if I consider it a horror movie. Um, it's I don't know, Noah. What would you say? A psychological study? Uh, how
Yeah,
would you
it's kind of a character piece
a character? There you go.
until the end.
Until the end. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And my sister back in the mid '70s had a little trailer house, and she lived in Fort Worth, Texas. And I was visiting her, and she took me to the drive-in, and I saw Carrie. That's what we're going to start with. Carrie. Uh, and this is 1976. It's got a 94% score. Of course, Brian De Palma. I'm probably going to do another director's showcase here pretty soon. And I'm going to include Brian De Palma in that, talk about Brian De Palma and probably pick another director to talk about with Brian De Palma. So many films. He's just one of my favorite directors, period. Brian De Palma. So many movies. Uh, his earlier films, he always had the reputation of kind of aping Hitchcock, but I never thought he was ripping Hitchcock off. I always thought he had his own style. You definitely can see an influence of Hitchcock. Movies like Sisters, The Fury. If you think the head exploding in Scanners is cool, a man explodes at the end of The Fury. I think it's even cooler. And De Palma made a Scanners movie before Scanners. Um, but so many movies, Blowout, Phantom of the Paradise, which is a batshit insane musical. Um, in his later films, Untouchables, the first Mission Impossible film. I watched Scarface a couple of days ago, which is, he almost sort of comic book excess with Scarface. Um, but I always thought Brian De Palma had a very distinctive visual style. He loved the camera. He loved trying to find interesting places to put the camera in and ways to move the camera in his films. and I think he does a great job in Carrie. Uh, and let me read what it says here. Carrie is a horrifying look at supernatural powers, high school cruelty, and teen angst. And it brings us one of the most memorable and disturbing prom scenes in history. Of course, Brian De Palma, Sissy Spacek, fantastic performance by her as Carrie. One of my favorite performances ever captured on film is Piper Laurie as the religious fanatic mother. William Catt, Amy Irving, PJ Souls. Yeah. And I connected with Carrie as a character. I saw the movie before I read the book. I'm a big Stephen King fan, but I saw the movie before I read the book. It's Stephen King's first book, based on his book. And so many scenes in the film, so many moments in the film. That dance with William Catt and Sissy Spacek at the prom when the camera is spinning around them as they dance. The slow, real slow way the camera slowly moves up that string, up to that banister where you see that bucket of blood, and the music behind that, and the way it's just done so slowly and so methodically. And of course, the split screen, the bright red color, shift. Oh gosh, I could go on and on. But anyway, tell me about Carrie, Noah.
Yeah, definitely a classic. I'm a big De Palma fan as well. I think Body Double might be one of my favorite movies, probably my favorite of his. Yeah, a lot of people accuse him of cribbing from Hitchcock and Argento and stuff like that, but I don't think he does it any more than, say, like a Tarantino does, So
Yeah.
he's always kind of reinterpreting it a little bit or remixing it. Sometimes it's more obvious than others, but that doesn't bother me. Yeah, I really like the book. It's one of my favorite King books, so this is a pretty good adaptation. They keep trying to remake this for some reason. I don't really know why. I don't think there's really much to improve upon. I know Mike Flanagan's doing an 8-episode miniseries adaptation of this next year, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to stretch this over 8 episodes. It's a pretty simple story,
Well, and then there was a remake with the hit girl? What's her name?
Chloe Grace Moretz.
Chloe Grace Moretz. Absolutely pointless remake, and the worst CGI blood ever put on film.
Yeah.
When the bucket of blood hits her, and of course, just two of my favorite performances on film, period, and that's Sissy Spacek as Carrie and Piper Laurie as the mother. And Piper Laurie brings it to the edge of overacting, but I don't think she quite crosses over. She doesn't go mommy dearest with it.
Right.
She comes close. But I love her performance, and I love what De Palma does with the camera in this movie. That, like I say, moving so slowly up that rope when you see that bucket of blood, and it's done so slowly, and the music behind it is just perfect. And of course the split screen when Carrie, goes batshit, and then the colors, the bright, was it red colors, almost like neon color, and that split screen and everything flying around. Anyway, great film, classic film. And I'll probably do a director showcase talking about Brian De Palma, because there's so many of his films that I love. But Carrie, definitely a classic. And and okay, and that's number 68. It, like I say, it's got a 94% score, and 1976. Number 67. It's been a long time since I've seen this, but I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun, good monster movie. This is The Host, 2006, 93% score. Bong Joon-ho directed. As populace pleasing as it is intellectually satisfying, The Host combines stares, laughs, and satire into a riveting monster movie. Yeah, it's basically it's a sea monster that's running up on shore and eating people and killing people, and it's got some really great. It's CGI, but really I think it's very well done CGI. Um, but yeah, it's a monster movie, and I don't. But it's been a while since I've seen it, so I don't know what I would say a lot about the individual scenes or anything. So what do you have to say? No.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I see this. It's not really a horror movie, in my opinion. It's more a sci-fi film, but um, it, this has strong Spielberg vibes. It's like a family monster movie, but with a bit more edge than you might get from an American film. You know, it's highly critical of the American military and pollution and all these other things, but it's really just kind of a sci-fi drama about a family, and it's very effective in that respect. It reminds me kind of I don't know. It's like ET vibes, but if ET was actually like a not super nice alien.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not one I think about a lot or have gone back too much. But it was pretty satisfying at the time, and yeah, the effects are pretty decent considering the budget. Um, but then I've liked most of the Korean films I've seen over the years. I think they don't get as much attention as they should. And if you haven't seen this one's a
Yeah.
people pleaser, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I say, it's fun. It's got some dramatic moments. But yeah, and this is The Host, 2006, 93% score, and that's number 67. Number 66 is, you know, what me and Noah talked about. Our favorite Dracula is Christopher Lee, but this is this is of course not after Nosferatu, but this is considered, I guess, the first quote unquote Dracula film. Nosferatu is kind of technically the first Dracula, or one of the first Dracula films, but this one is Dracula, and this is 1931, 94% score. Todd Browning directed. Bela Lugosi, of course, as Dracula. Edward von Sloan, Dwight Fry, David Manners. Bela Lugosi's timeless portrayal of Dracula in this creepy and atmospheric 1931 film has set the standard for major vampiric roles since. But yeah, and it's another one that it's been a long time since I've seen Dracula. I've seen it several times, but it's been quite a while since I've seen it. It's what became the vampire stereotype. Dracula, the accent and all that. Dracula, I want to drink your blood, but it's not that. It's not like that. It's not that. It's not a comedy in that respect. But watching it now, it definitely has humor to it, just given how old it is and the portrayal of Bela Lugosi. But it's a classic, Dracula. If you're in the mood for some old, for some old black and white scares, it's one of the best, one of the classics, Dracula. What do you have to say, Noah?
Actually, I rewatched this just last week, and it's pretty much Bela Lugosi and Dwight Fry acting circles around everybody else in the film.
Yeah.
I mean the set designs and the cinematography are gorgeous, but it's a very stiff film. Coming out in 1931, it does not have any kind of score or music, so there is no Nothing like that. All the scenes are silent except for dialogue and some sound effects. And that's mainly because the producers at the time didn't believe that the audience would understand non-diegetic music in films. Um, but I'm also a big fan of the Spanish version that they made at night on the same sets.
Yeah, I've got a DVD set that's got the original Dracula, but it's also got that Spanish version too.
Yeah, the Spanish
I've seen that
version,
once. I
the
need to see that again, but I've seen that once.
it has a lot more like energy and sexuality to it. The only problem with the Spanish version is that the guy playing Dracula is really terrible, in my opinion. So if you could somehow take Bela Lugosi and put him in the Spanish version, I think you'd have like the perfect combination. Unfortunately, that's you can't do that. But no, and he had been playing the role on stage uh, many, many, many times before they made this film.
I didn't know
And
that.
he campaigned hard for this role, and they went through like 20, 30 actors that they wanted instead of him that just didn't work out. And then they only cast him because he agreed to basically do it for almost no money.
Huh.
Yeah, it was kind of a shame how that went down. I mean, he was happy to be in it, obviously, and finally get the part. But I think in the end, it didn't really go how he wanted. And he thought this would be his big breakout into, leading roles in other types of film. And that just didn't happen, But no, it's an important movie, even if it doesn't hold up as well today as some of those other
Right.
Universal films.
And speaking of Tom Browning, what I've watched here recently, I think it's on AMC Plus, Freaks.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if it's on the list, but I don't even know if I consider Freaks. I guess I would consider it a horror film because it's really unnerving.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would consider it a horror film. But anyway, we got a question here, and Tanya Brown asks, "Hi y'all, have you seen the werewolf versus the vampire woman?" I have not.
It rings a bell, but I don't think I've seen it.
But no, ma'am.
Oh, that's one of the Paul Naschy werewolf films, which I like. I liked a few of those I've seen, but I don't think I've seen
that one. Yeah, and that's what. And that's what she says, Paul Naschy.
Yeah.
But no, I have not seen that. But I'll add that to the list. Okay. But anyway, that's a 94% score. Dracula, Todd Browning, 1931. Dracula. Yeah. Okay. Number 65. I am seeing it once again. It's pitiful how long it's been since I've seen this film. It's been forever since I've seen Dead of Night. And this is 1945. With 4 accomplished directors contributing, Dead of Night is a classic horror anthology that remains highly influential. And the directors are Alberto can you say the name?
Cavalcanti?
Cavalcanti, Basil Dearden, Robert Hammer, and Charles Crichton. And the only segment I remember of this film is the one with the ventriloquist dummy, the guy with the ventriloquist dummy. It's one I definitely need to revisit. So, what are your memories of Dead of Night, 1945? 95%.
Yeah, I only saw this for the first time recently, and I mean, I really enjoyed it. I remember the ventriloquist story as the most famous, and it does stand out as the best in there. There's also a story, I think, involving like time stoppage that was kind of interesting, and I really liked the wraparound story as well. But yeah, this was the first modern anthology horror film in this format, with the wraparound story and the individual stories. There were a number of anthology horror films before this, but they were not in that kind of layout. So, but yeah, it's a classic. It's one of those kind of you've got to check it off your list for your horror education.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, that's Dead of Night, 1945, 95% score, and that's number 65. Okay, number 64, I have not seen. This is Raw, 2016. 93% score. Julia, I'm gonna. Oh God, Doc Ornall directed. I'm sure I'm massacred to that name. Raw's lurid violence and sexuality live up to its title, but they're anchored with an immersive atmosphere and deep symbolism that linger long after the provocative visuals fade. But I have not seen Raw. Have you seen Raw?
I have not. It's been on my list. I hear great things, but I just haven't seen it.
Okay. Okay, but anyway, that's Raw 2016, 93% score. But yeah, we haven't seen it. So number 64. Okay, number 63. I do not consider number 63 to be a horror film, but I love it to death. And that's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And of course, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, and Robert Aldrich directed. Robert Aldrich. Whatever Happened to Baby Jane combines powerhouse acting, rich atmosphere, and absorbing melodrama in service of a taut thriller with thought-provoking subtext. And it's about two sisters, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. And Joan Crawford was a highly regarded actress, a famous actress. And her sister Betty Davis was a child actress 100 years ago, but she hasn't let go of her desire to be the it girl, but she's old, she's decrepit, she's worn out, and she's insane. And Betty Davis gives one of the best performances ever by an actress of her caliber in this movie. And Joan Crawford is her sister, and she's an invalid. She's in a wheelchair, and Betty Davis torturing her and feeding her a dead rat, and all kinds of fun stuff. Fun mayhem ensues, and whatever happened to Baby Jane. But anyway, what do you have to say about it?
This is one of those I haven't seen.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. I know this kicked off the whole hagsploitation subgenre, and they made a bunch of these after this. But I really haven't seen most of those pictures, and nor this one.
Well, you got to see it.
Yeah, it's on my list. Don't worry.
Yeah, like I say, as far as performances, just Betty Davis just eating up the screen. It is Baby Jane, and the whole story of the behind the scenes and making of this film, where they just pretty much wanted to kill each other, Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, during the making of this film. There's more fun to be had in the stories behind the movie almost than in the movie itself. But, I love the movie, absolutely adore this movie. But I don't consider it a horror film. It's more of a character study again. It's got
a thriller.
A thriller. There you go. It's got had some very creepy moments. I love the direction by Robert Aldrich and where he puts the camera and and like I say, just performance wise, it's something you got to see just to see, particularly that Betty Davis going.
Yeah, I know Betty Davis always said she thought she should have gotten the Oscar for this.
And anyway, Tanya says, I have it on DVD, bruh. Yeah. And I'm assuming he's talking about Baby Jane. But yeah, oh God, well, you got to see it. Yeah, definitely put it high on your list. No, you got to see that. But yeah, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 91% score, 1962. Robert Aldrich directed, and Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. Yeah, got to see it. Okay, here's something more recent. Number 62 is Megan. 2022, 93% score. Gerard Johnstone directed, unapologetically silly, and all the more entertaining for it. Megan is a rare horror comedy that delivers chuckles as effortlessly as chills. I had fun with Megan. Uh, I don't know if I would put it on this list. I wouldn't call it one of my favorite horror films ever, but I had fun with Megan, uh, and yeah, this kind of AI, the doll that's being tested, for the market, where a child can interact with this kind of walking, uh, uh, girl, sort of a robot, AI generated, where she can interact with you, and become friends with you, and of course her programming goes haywire, and the girl she's befriended, uh, Megan, sets out to exact revenge on anyone that treats her wrong, and uh, it's fun. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would like to see what else they do with the character. I'm sure they're making a sequel. Um, but yeah, I had fun with Megan. It's not great, but as a time killer, I had fun with Megan.
Yeah, I think this movie's really fun. It's very rewatchable. I've seen it a couple times now. Um, I think the performances are really good. It is funny. There is good humor in it. It doesn't do anything new, but it is a decent update of that killer doll type story. Whether it be Child's Play or whatever. Um, and I was really impressed with the effects in this. How they uh, they have the practical actress, but then they have the kind of the CGI and makeup overlay on the face to make it look
Yeah,
like.
and that's something that when I saw it, I didn't know how much was CGI and how much was actual
Yeah,
practical.
it's totally seamless, basically, which is impressive, especially on a small budget.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it next.
yeah, it's kind of like with Art the Clown. Megan could potentially be another sort of a franchise character.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, I definitely want to see what they do next with Megan. But yeah, 93% score, 2022 Megan. Uh, okay, number 61, I think is one of the better horror films made in the past like 20 years or so. And that is It Follows, 2014. Smart, original, and above all terrifying, It Follows is the rare modern horror film that works on multiple levels and leaves a lingering sting. And David Robert Mitchell directed. Micah Monroe. I'm not going to try to pronounce all these names of the stars in it, but anyway, It Follows is basically a sort of a possessed spirit that's transmitted through sex, and you know the a girl that's possessed with this spirit, sort of an evil demonic spirit, or I don't know how you would describe it. She has sex with a man. She transfers that spirit to him, and then vice versa. If he has sex with a girl, he transfers that to her. And great effects, special effects in this film. Taut direction, very, very. I love the direction in this film, and love the direction this movie goes. And it's inventive, it's unique, it does something different with that kind of possession thing. Um, but yeah, what do you have to say about it? It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically The Ring as a venereal disease, and it's just so well made. The way it's shot, it feels like a modern Carpenter film. in a lot of its style. You know, that kind of minimalist, strong compositions. Kind of the acting isn't anything that's going to blow you away, but it works perfectly for the story. And it's just super creepy and different, and it's definitely, again, it's one of those few films that I definitely think is a quote unquote modern classic. It's you know, way up there. So.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely. If you haven't seen It Follows, you definitely got to put that on your list. Like I say, this was 2014, a 95% score. But yeah, like Noah says, modern classic. Yeah, It Follows. Okay, number 60. Gosh, when I saw this movie for the first time, I thought it started off as a well-made sort of, sort of a Evil Dead feel, slasher film feel, but it wasn't anything doing anything really unique with it, but it was well made and I was enjoying it. Then it got to the last quarter of this film and it went in a direction that I had no idea was going to go on, and it became one of my favorite movies of the year. And that is Cabin in the Woods. 2011, 92% score. Drew Goddard directed. The Cabin in the Woods is an astonishing meta feat, capable of being funny, strange, and scary, frequently all at the same time. And I think that's put very well. Yeah, this movie, like I say, I had fun with it, was enjoying it, but it was kind of like standard fare, the first sort of half of the film. The following, it is about a cabin in the woods, and then you get the slashers and killings, and I thought, well, this is well made. But then the last quarter of the film goes. I'm not going to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, but it goes in a direction that you do not see coming, and then it ups the stakes and becomes much better than you expect it's going to be. But anyway, what do you have to say about Cabin in the
Woods? I'm very of two minds about this film. When I saw it, I enjoyed it. It was funny. I had a good time with it. But I also kind of hate it. I have had no urge to rewatch it. And when I think back on it, my thoughts aren't kind. And I think what it is for me personally, it's just me personally. Like I said, it's a good film, but it really pats itself on the back for being so clever. It's just too much up its own ass.
But except the last quarter, you think that it's
right. It's just like, look how, like I said, it's a good movie. For me personally, it just makes me cringe at how pleased they seem to be with themselves for being so metatextual.
Look how smart and clever and creative.
Right. And it's just not something I'll probably ever go back to. But I think 99% of people like this movie, and like I said, it's a well-made movie.
Yeah,
and it's a good time.
I will say it worked for me. I see what you mean, but at the same time, it worked for me, and I've always had a lot of fun with Cabin in the Woods.
Sure, absolutely.
And like I say, it goes in a direction that Noah says that for some people may say, well, yeah, they're being a little too clever, a little too tongue in cheek or whatever, but it worked for me. So, but anyway, Cabin in the Woods, 2011, 92% score. That's number 60. And here we go with number 59, which should be like number two or three.
Yeah.
And that is Dawn of the Dead. Of course, George Romero. 1978, 91% score. One of the most compelling and entertaining zombie films ever. Dawn of the Dead perfectly blends pure horror and gore with social commentary on maternal Material Society. Oh gosh, well, we could do a show just about this movie,
Sure.
about Dawn of the Dead. But I can tell you, I saw this at the perfect time for me. It was on VHS, and it was my friend Mark had told me about it. And he goes, you know that movie Night of the Living? Oh, yeah, Night of the Living Dead. I think I had it on VHS, and I copied because it was a public domain movie. So they had all kinds of knockoff copies of Night of the Living Dead. So I'd seen Night of the Living Dead several times. And he told me, he said, they made a sequel to that. I said, I had no idea. And he said, yeah, Dawn of the Dead, So we went to the W&W Family Rental here in Mahia, rented Dawn of the Dead, and sat there and watched this film. And even though Night of the Living Dead did it first, this movie for me sort of invented the zombie, the way we would see zombies now, like, a Walking Dead or whatever, or, a Return of the Living Dead or whatever. This creature of human being that's returned to life from the dead and eats human flesh and walks around, and the only way you can kill it is to shoot it in the head. And it's a shambling, a creature, walks slowly, shambles around. And of course, George Romero, the not so subtle social commentary of all these zombies in a shopping mall. And, this back in the day when shopping malls were this was before shopping malls were sort of all the rage. This was in early days of shopping malls, this movie. But it became, everyone went to the shopping mall and just walked around and went to all the different stores and went to KB's and went to whatever and shuffled around and purchased and looked. And the idea that the zombies are just a sort of connected with the culture of humanity, just shambling around in this shopping mall with no real direction, just but anyway, so many great moments in this film. Of course, Tom Savini's great makeup, and my favorite zombie captured on film is Flyboy Zombie, and who plays him, by the way?
David Emge.
Yeah, David Emge, Ken Foray, David Emge, Galen Ross, Scott H. Reiniger. You got a really cool cameo by Romero at the beginning of it at this television station. Classic movie, classic zombie movie. And for me, the movie that established sort of the zombie rules. But anyway, what do you have to say about Dawn of the Dead?
There's not much that hasn't been said. I think, it you're right in that it is not thematically subtle in any way, but just as much then as I think now, subtlety is kind of dead. And it's just as pertinent now, even especially today, as much as it is back then. And it's, I don't know, to use a fancy word, it's like the quintessence of the modern horror film, basically. It is emblematic. I don't know. It's as the kids would say, it's a vibe. But
well, pretty much every zombie movie that was made after this copied Dawn of the Dead or was influenced by Dawn of the Dead. Even the movies like Return of the Living Dead, which is kind of a unofficial sequel to Night of the Living Dead, where the zombies run, but still, this movie it set the template for the zombie film. And Romero's great independent spirit Uh, released this movie unrated because the MPAA or whatever wanted to heavily cut it, cut Savini's gore and no, fuck you, and just released the movie unrated. Uh, uh, and but yeah, I've said when we talked about Day of the Dead, the Day of the Dead is the one that I watch the most often, but I think Dawn of the Dead is the best one of the three, the best made film of the three. But yeah. And so, but anyway, that's number 59, Dawn of the Dead, 1978, 91% score. Oh gosh. And here we go back to our man Cronenberg again. And I was going to North Texas State University, and I talked about they had a 4-screen theater there. I had an old shambling bicycle I rode, and I watched The Fly. 1986, 93% score. David Cronenberg combines his trademark affinity for gore and horror with strongly developed characters, making The Fly a surprisingly effective tragedy. And of course, David Cronenberg directed, Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, John Getz, 93% score. Oh gosh, well, yeah, that's another one that way too low on the list. It's a modern classic. And a remake of the original The Fly, where the scientist has invented a teleportation device that can transport, one living thing to another pod, and he meets Jenna Davis, who's a reporter. She wants to do a story about him, but he says, "Well, wait." Let me kind of show you what I'm doing and all that, and of course they develop a relationship with Jenna Davis, Jeff Goldblum, and of course Cronenberg's direction here is fantastic, and the way he treats the story is like a man with an illness, like cancer, that once he enters the pod with the fly becomes part of his DNA, and he slowly starts to transform and change. His fingernails start to fall out, his teeth start to fall out, and then welts start to rise on his body, and his face, like tumors start to sprout from his face and all that as he's the fly DNA starts to take over his body or take over his DNA. Great moments in this film. The main reason I will never arm wrestle anyone in this film, because that happens. I have seen actual YouTube videos where that has happened.
Oh yeah.
So I won't arm wrestle anyone after seeing The Fly. Great performance by everyone involved. Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis, John Getz, great makeup effects, and great direction by David Cronenberg. But anyway, what do you have to say about The Fly?
Yeah, I mean, aside from successfully modernizing the story and the effects being amazing and all that stuff, it works on a lot of different levels. It's definitely a metaphor for like you said, an illness like cancer or AIDS, and then it's also like a simple gothic romance. It's like Frankenstein if Frankenstein became the monster instead of just making one. Because at the heart of the story is this love story that also involves monsters barfing on people's hands and melting them. So
Yeah.
It's something for everybody.
Yeah, and it's a tragedy. It gets very emotional, and that's what I think is great about this movie is the way it bridges horror with drama, and I'm sure all of us know someone who's gone through an illness, gone through a long illness, I personally have. My best friend Barry passed away a few years ago. He had diabetes and his kidneys started to fail on him, and just watching him just lose control of his body, just sort of illness taking over. So I definitely, I'm sure most everyone knows someone that has gone through that cancer or an illness like this that degrades the body and takes over. Uh, so it's very dramatic, but it's a lot of fun too. Like you said, it's got some
Yeah.
got some great gore effects, great transformation at the end when he becomes the Fly, uh, and yeah. But anyway, it's a modern classic, and Bar Lizzie says, "Trump your daddy." Okay, okay, okay.
Sure.
Trump your daddy. Well, for 4 years, he'll be our daddy. For 4 more years. Uh, okay, but anyway, that's number 58, The Fly, 1986. Of course, David Cronenberg and Jeff Goldblum, Gina Davis. Great performances by them. Okay, here we go. Here's another one that's way too low on the list. Number 57. Uh, I love the humor of this movie. I love the weirdness of it. Uh, I love the 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 where it goes. It makes you squirm. It has fun with making you squirm, and that's Reanimator. 1985, 94% score. Of course, Stuart Gordon directed, Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton, David Gale, perfectly mixing humor and horror. The only thing more effective than Reanimator's gory scares or its dry, deadpan jokes. Uh, yeah. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a freak show. I love the humor in this movie. Some of the best practical effects captured on film in a horror film, where this man, a scientist, develops this serum that if you inject it into a dead body, it reanimates a dead body, turns them into, kind of screaming zombies. But Jeffrey Combs is fantastic in this film. Um, and Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton, David Gale, the severed head in this vat of this reanimation fluid, and the headless body that's walking around being controlled, telepathically by this head, and what this head does to Barbara Gale,
Barbara
and
Crampton.
huh?
Barbara Crampton.
Barbara Crampton. That's Barbara Crampton. She's strapped to this bed. She's naked from the waist down, and this headless body is holding its own head, and he does something to her that's like, ooh, God. They put that on film. Yes, they did. Reanimator, like I say, it's a lot of fun. I love the humor in this movie, and it gets batshit crazy in moments that I just love. I love the sort of over the top moments in this film. But anyway, what did you have to say about Reanimator?
This is one of my favorites of all time. Second movie I ever bought on DVD. I first saw it, my video store had a copy, but they had the R-rated copy, which had all the gore taken out, but all the deleted scenes put back in. And so I thought that's how it was supposed to be. And then, I eventually saw the regular theatrical version. It's just like, wow, this is so different. But yeah, one of my favorites. I love Jeffrey Combs for the passion. He's so great in this, and everything he does. But and Stuart Gordon, big fan of him. Sad that he's gone. I remember the story. I had just watched Polanski's The Ninth Gate, before I was watching this, and he talks on the audio commentary about how to learn how to direct, he just watched a bunch of Polanski films.
Oh,
And if you watch a Polanski movie and then watch Reanimator, like there are some shots that are just shot for shot from Roman Polanski films, not in a bad way, you know.
Oh.
But I always found that kind of interesting. But yeah, I love this movie.
oh yeah. But of course, it's a classic, and way too low at number 57. Reanimator, 1985, 94% score. Stuart Gordon, of course. Jeffrey Combs. It's a classic. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Number 56. I talk about how big of a Stephen King fan I am. I reread this here recently. And at his prime, one of the best directors around was Rob Reiner. But I grew up watching All in the Family, and he was Meathead. And I remember when I saw Spinal Tap, I said, "It's Meathead directed that," and it's like, and of course became one of the best directors there is. Of course, Stand By Me, another Stephen King movie, Stand By Me, based on The Body. But anyway, this is Misery. This is 1990. Elevated by standout performances from James Caan and Kathy Bates, this taut and frightening film is one of the best Stephen King adaptations to date. James Caan, Kathy Bates, Francis Sternhagen, Richard Farnsworth, and I love Richard Farnsworth in this film. I always liked that actor. But anyway, Kathy Bates won the Oscar for this film, won Best Actress for this film. And one of the best performances in a horror film, period, is Kathy Bates. And James Caan plays a writer, and kind of Stephen King sort of based the character on himself. The template for this character. He's a writer, and he has made these very popular series of novels with a character called Misery. And it's sort of romance novels, and the Misery having it. I forget what time period it takes place. But anyway, Misery has these different adventures and meets different lovers and all that. But very popular series of novels, the Misery novels. Well, James Caan wants to get away from Misery. He wants to branch out, write different stuff. And he has a new book he's written that doesn't involve Misery. And he's on his way to his publisher, I think, and it's snowing heavily. And he swerves off the road and has a wreck. And this heavy-set woman pulls him from the wreck and nurses him back. It begins nursing him back to health. And she's a big fan of Misery and the Misery books. And when he finds out that he's killed Misery in his most recent Misery book, she's not happy about it. And she holds him prisoner and forces him to write a new Misery story. And he tries a couple of times to escape. And so she performs an act on him called Hobbling. And anyway, a great film, great direction by Rob Reiner, great performance by Kathy Bates and James Caan. Anyway, what do you have to say about Misery?
Yeah, definitely a classic. I think when I first saw this, I think I was too young to appreciate it. I was pretty small when I first saw this. I think I saw it when I was like 9. And other than the hobbling scene, as a kid, I was like, this is kind of boring, But yeah, no, I mean, it's a classic. Toxic fandom has always been a thing, but more so now than ever. And this is certainly ahead of the game and dealing with that. And yeah, people think Star Wars fans are bad. Watch this.
Yeah. but yeah, like I say, it's about toxic fandom, and in the book, I think it's handled actually better in the movie because in the book, uh, she cuts his foot off. I think maybe she cuts both feet off, but I know she cuts one of them off, and I think that would have been too much for the film, and I think the hobbling
yeah, that's almost worse.
yeah,
The hobbling,
yeah.
you know.
But anyway, and great before, like I say, Kathy Bates, yeah, she won the Oscar for this. Uh, Great direction by Rob Reiner. It's a classic, modern classic. 1990s Misery, 91% score. And Kathy Bates and James Caan and Richard Farnsworth. And speaking of Richard Farnsworth, he plays the sheriff character in this film. He doesn't have a lot of scenes, but I really like his scenes. But you talked about how the oh God, what was it? The Eraserhead. Give me the director. My God, I'm
David
losing.
Lynch.
David Lynch. You got to see Straight Story. If you haven't seen Straight Story, have you seen Straight Story?
Oh yeah.
Okay, with Richard Farnsworth.
Mm-hmm.
Riding more across country to visit his ailing brother who's dying. It's based on a true story, and it's probably David Lynch's most just normal film. That doesn't get into his sort of his.
I believe
brain.
it's rated G.
Sir.
I believe it's rated G.
Yeah, rated G.
A few rated G films in the last few years.
And Sissy Spacek in it. Speaking of Sissy Spacek, but anyway, Straight Story. Anyone you look that up. But I love Straight Story with Richard Farnsworth. But anyway, that's number 56, 1990 Misery, 91% score. Okay, number 55. I had a lot of fun with. I saw both. I saw the first and second film in the theater, but the second one was okay, but I really enjoyed Zombieland, the first one. This is 2009, 89% score. Wickedly funny and featuring plenty of gore, Zombieland is proof that the zombie genre is far from dead. And Robert Fleischer directed, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, Abigail Breslin. It's a modern zombie film. It's a zombie comedy film. It's fun. I really like Woody Harrelson in this one. He's a lot of fun. And Jesse Eisenberg is fun in this movie. And kind of setting new rules on how to treat the zombies, the double tap and and such as that, But it's a fun zombie movie. It's a comedy, it's a comedy horror film. There's a lot of fun to be had in this movie. But anyway, what do you have to say about Zombieland?
Yeah, I think it's harmless fun. I can't stand Jesse Eisenberg, but he's pretty tolerable in this movie. But Woody Harrelson and Emma Stone are great. And back before all these new Ghostbusters films, it was great to see Bill Murray running around dressed like a Ghostbuster again. And that's
but there's a great cameo by Bill Murray as himself. It's just
a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's the best way to put it. It's a lot of fun. Zombieland. That's number 55, 2009, Zombieland, Robert Fleischer director. Okay. I absolutely adore this movie. I would call this a modern classic myself. And this is 2022's Pearl. 93% score. Ty West directed. This is the sequel to X a few years before. Pearl finds Ty West squeezing fresh gore out of the world he created with X and once again benefiting from a brilliant Mia Goth performance. And I can't go on enough about Mia Goth in this film. There are moments in this film where she's just on screen and just acting her ass off and giving one of the best performances I've seen by an actress in recent memory in Pearl. And I love the way it's filmed. It's filmed almost like an old Technicolor film. You know, very bright colors, very vivid, um, and what is it? It takes place. Was it like the 1920s or 30s or something? What the time? What's the time period of this film?
I think it's got to be. I think it's during World War One.
Yeah, and
So
it's
in 1913, 1914.
and what was it like during the swine flu epidemic or something like that? Because the
Yeah.
characters had masks, wearing masks, um, and but anyway, it's Pearl, the elderly woman in X. This is her as a young girl, and she wants to be a performer. She wants to sing and dance, and she dreams of performing. And her mother is trying to tell her, you know, look, you need to, you know, she's married, she's got a husband that's fighting in the war, that's coming home soon. Her mother's telling her, you know, you need to, you know, stay here, take care of business, take care of the farm. They live at a farm, um, and but Pearl dreams of stardom, and and she's not hooked up right mentally, quite very very well. She's a little twisted mentally, um, but absolutely love Mia Goth's performance in this. And there is a moment in this film that's a monologue where the camera just slowly pushes into her. That's one of the best moments of acting I've seen on film recently. Um, love her performance. Love the movie. Love the look of the movie. Those bright colors. Those Technicolor. That Technicolor look. But anyway, what do you have to say about Pearl?
I don't know. You pretty much said it all. I think that monologue in particular, I would go so far as to say maybe one of the best performances in film. Period. I mean that that scene alone. I mean, I think establishes Mia Goth's legacy as an actress. I mean, it's. I have a hard time thinking of other scenes like that. Period. That are that strong, and it's just yeah. I mean, it. She knocks it out of the park. I mean, I would compare this film to Psycho. I think it has a similar kind of. It's not as gimmicky, obviously, but
It's kind of a character study,
yeah, yeah. Um, no, I mean, I don't, uh, it may sound like I'm exaggerating, but no, I think this is one of those real deals. You know, this is a movie for all time, kind of.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it. I got it for Blu-ray on last Christmas, uh, and I watched it recently. I've seen it. I think I've seen it 4 times. I'll see it several more times. I haven't seen the third film. I love X, but Pearl, it's on a different level for me. Uh, and like I say, that we keep going back to this monologue, but there's just this monologue in this film that's just one of the best moments in acting that you're ever going to see. Um, she cries, she laughs, she, oh gosh, it's amazing. But anyway, uh, and anyway, that's, well, just a moment. Let me see what this is. Let me real quick answer this. Okay. Nothing important. Okay, let me. But anyway, this is Pearl 2022. Mia Goth. Uh, yeah, it's just a movie with a just a great performance. If you want to see acting at its prime, Pearl. And 93% score. 2022. Number 54. Okay, number 53. Um, uh, the rare action thriller that spikes adrenaline without skipping on character is a Predator prequel done right, and that's a Dan Trachtenberg director, directed, 94% score. Yes, I really enjoyed Prey, and I I like what they took the Predator and put it. Then what's the time period? It's Native Americans.
Early 1600s, I think.
Yeah, um, yeah. You put the Predator character, the Predator creature during this time period, early 1600s, with the Native Americans, and you got this girl that's battling the Predator, and Amber Mid Thunder.
Yep.
Is that her name? Uh, Very well made. It's got a 94% score. It's one of the best sequel prequels I think recently done. And to take the Predator, creature from so many years ago, and to put him in not a modern setting because it takes place during this time period, but very effectively done, very well directed, and the performance by the girl in this is really good. The girl that's ultimately battling the Predator. But anyway, what do you have to say about Prey?
Yeah, I totally agree. She's great in this. The characterization is really good for an action movie, in particular. It's probably the best sequel after the first one. I mean, it's super solid. It's not a horror movie and probably shouldn't be on this list, but I really like it. You know, and I'm looking forward to see what they're doing next. So.
After seeing this, I'm like, well, where else could we put the Predator? I'd like to see a Predator movie during World War II times.
Well, I've read that the next one is actually set like in the future.
In the future, yeah. Other different time periods. The future would be cool. A Western with a Predator.
Mm-hmm.
Make a Predator Western. But after seeing what they did here, I'm like, that's cool. What else could you do with the Predator? What other time periods could you put the Predator into? It would make it, just make a cool story.
Yeah.
After seeing how well they did with Prey. But yeah, that's number 53, Prey, a 94% score. Dan Trachtenberg. You know what else he might have directed?
I think he did 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we talked about that last show.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen number 52, and it's The Innocents, 2021, 97% score. The Innocents chillingly subverts the purity of youth in a powerfully acted thriller that lingers long after the credits roll. Eskil Vogt, I'm probably not pronouncing the name right, as director, but I haven't seen The Innocents. 97% score, 2021.
Yep, haven't seen this one either.
Yeah. Okay. On the list.
I think I was tired of movies about kids with superpowers, so I kind of skipped on.
But anyway, The Innocents 2021, 97% score. Number 52. Okay. Now, hang on just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay. Because I've got to remember, I wrote it down because this song rings in my head every time I see this movie. Wrestle T.
Yeah.
Wrestle T. And that's Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. 1963, 94% score. Rod Taylor, Tippi Hedren, Suzanne Pleshette, Jessica Tandy, proving once again that build-up is the key to suspense. Alfred Hitchcock successfully turned birds into some of the most terrifying villains in horror history. And that damn song, Wrestle T. The kids singing that song in the church.
They added additional choruses to it because the real song wasn't long enough for the sequel.
It goes on forever.
Yeah.
Wrestle T. Now. But anyway, no, I love The Birds. I love Alfred Hitchcock's direction in The Birds. Yeah, the effects you see all the seams when you watch it now. You see, where it's superimposed. A lot of the effects are superimposed of the birds attacking, people, attacking the kids and stuff. But it's still very well done. That shot, I don't know if it's from a plane or whatever, when the guy drops the cigarette in that puddle of gasoline and catches himself on fire. And then you have that very wide shot where you see the fire burning. I love that shot. Some very inventive camera work done in the birds. But yeah, the birds start attacking everybody. And but Rod Taylor, Tippi Hedren, where, yeah, it's Hitchcock being inventive visually and trying new things visually, which he always did. He always, he broke new ground. He was a groundbreaker, Alfred Hitchcock was, and he broke new ground with the birds. That scene where Tippi Hedren is sitting, outside the church with that damn Wrestlety song going on and on and on, and you see the birds converging on this, was it monkey bars?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, just a little at a time, and then building and building and building. And I was like, well, how the fuck did they do that? But anyway, I think it still holds up. I watched it recently. Yeah. Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. What do you have to say about it?
I love it. I think it's great. It has a real unique atmosphere. It's really creepy, and I think that's an accomplishment for a movie about some birds. It's just like you could very easily not take this seriously at all.
Yeah.
But he does a great job, and yeah, the effects are dated, but they were cutting edge at the time, and I think you could see the seams then. It was just how much can you suspend your disbelief? But I think he draws you into the story so well it has no effect on me, that kind of stuff. I think, have you ever seen the Mel Brooks movie High Anxiety?
High Anxiety, yeah.
Where they spoof the Jungle Gym scene?
Yeah.
And all the birds shit all over.
Yeah.
I can't help but think of that too whenever I watch this movie.
Coming in with the newspaper when he's showering and
yeah,
stabbing him with the newspaper.
But no, it's Hitchcock's. I mean, he could do no wrong. This is great.
Right, but
created the animal attacks genre basically,
and a slow build film.
Oh yeah,
and
I love that it's never explained.
Yeah, and it doesn't explain why the birds are doing what they're doing.
Who knows? And
the ending, pretty much, this is why an early film, what I call kind of like, a Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy. This is basically an apocalypse film.
Yeah.
Where it ends with you pretty much thinking, well, the world's coming to an end and the birds are taking over.
Yeah.
And really creepy ending when you see that car driving away and you see the birds mingling around.
They're just all sitting there watching her walk out.
Yeah.
It's just like, what the fuck, dude?
Not attacking. Well, he gives him a little peck on the hand, but yeah, they're like, yeah, go ahead, we'll get you later. And,
crazy stuff.
Yeah, very creepy ending, and pretty much it's like, well, we're fucked. The birds are taking over. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the next one, number 50. This is a very effective, I guess, remake of the original Nosferatu, and this is Nosferatu the Vampire. 1979, 94% score. Werner Herzog directed. Klaus Kinski is Nosferatu in this one. Isabel Adjani, Bruno Gans. Stunning visuals from Werner Herzog and an intense portrayal of the famed bloodsucker from Klaus Kinski make this remake of Nosferatu a horror classic in its own right. Yeah, and of course the makeup on Klaus Kinski is Nosferatu. Is basically the Dracula story, where and you have a Van Helsing character that's going, that's you know, getting he's supposed to go to this count's house and get all the papers in line for some property he's buying, and of course you find out he's a vampire and he's up to no good. Great makeup on Klaus Kinski, and great direction by Werner Herzog. Uh, if you've seen the original Nosferatu, the silent classic film, this is I think this is a great remake. Of course, it's sound and color and all that, but it gives you the same feel almost as the original, and Klaus Kinski's performance and makeup and all that. But anyway, what do you have to say about Nosferatu?
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. It's a pretty faithful remake of Nosferatu. Werner Herzog's probably in my top 10 directors of all time. But that being said, I do not think this is as good as the silent film. It's a good alternative, especially if you struggle with silent movies, which I totally understand if you do. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting once Robert Eggers' Nosferatu comes out to look at all three of these together.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like I said, it's a very good movie, but it kind of feels a little unnecessary almost. But that's probably the only negative thing I would ever say about a Herzog film. So.
But yeah. Let me real quick pull up something. Speaking of Nosferatu, and let me answer a question here. But anyway, speaking of Nosferatu, what is that movie that Willem Dafoe made?
Shadow of the Vampire.
Shadow of the Vampire. Look that up. Where
so good if you can find it.
Willem Dafoe is playing. What's the actor's name that played?
Max Schreck.
Yeah, Max Schreck. Yeah, but look up Shadow of the Vampire.
Yeah.
But hang on just a minute. Let me answer something here. Okay. Got a message I need to answer real quick. All right, sorry. Okay. All right. But anyway, yeah. Nosferatu, the vampire, and like Noah says, kind of an unnecessary remake. But I guess for audiences that want to hear someone speak and want to see us a sound version of the story. Yeah. So sorry. All right. Okay. Now the next movie, number 49, is Dario Argento's Suspiria, and this is 1977. I've only and I should be taken out and whipped because I've only seen this movie one time. And
oh wow!
Yeah, I've only seen it once, and it was like 5-6 years ago when I saw it. But anyway, Suspiria, 1977, 94% score. The blood pours freely in Argento's classic Suspiria, a giallo horror as grandiose and glossy as it is gory. What always struck me about Suspiria was I guess you'd call the color palette or whatever, the lighting that Argento uses for this film. Very bright, almost neon lights, I mentioned, the parts of Carrie, very how would you describe the lighting in this film?
It's it's so hard to describe. There's nothing really like it, except maybe. I mean, it's almost experimental in terms of its lighting. I think it's the closest thing I can say.
Well, yeah, it's very bright, very vivid colors, and but like I say, it's been a while since I've seen this movie, and I only seen it once. I know that's terrible. The movie this classic I've only seen one time, but anyway, I'll let you talk about Suspiria.
Well, I first saw this on kind of a raggedy VHS back in the day, which was not the way to see it. Because it's easily Argento's most beautifully photographed movie. I think the story, it took me multiple watches to really get to grips with the story in the film, because it is so dreamlike and like a fairy tale. It's like a super dark fairy tale, basically. And the fact that the mythology behind the film is based on an essay by I think Thomas De Quincey, who was famous essentially for experimenting with mind-altering drugs. So that kind of sums up the story. But that's where the three mothers come from, and yeah, it's like a Grimm's fairy tale with all that horrible, violent crap they cut out for kids put back in. It's like the Wizard of Oz of horror movies almost, in terms of the colors and the kind of journey it takes you on.
Yeah.
There's really nothing like it out there before or after. It's a unique experience, and I can understand. I know some people don't love it, and I get that. It's so stylized. You're either in or you're out. It's not something I revisit too frequently, because I think it's kind of special. You don't kind of want to overdo it, But yeah, I don't know. I genuinely struggle to talk about this one just because of how unique it is, I guess.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, that's Suspiria, number 49, 94% score. Of course, Dario Argento, Jessica Harper. Yeah, it's one I definitely need to revisit. I think it's on Tubi, so I need to revisit it. And like I say, yeah, it's terrible. I've only seen that movie once. I should, but
I do love Jessica Harper. Between this and Phantom of the Paradise,
yeah,
she's fantastic.
Brian De Palma again.
Yep.
But anyway, okay, number 48 should be, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 or something.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, 94% score. Wes Craven, of course, John Saxon, Ronnie Blakely, Heather Langenkamp, Robert Englund, of course, as Freddy Krueger. What can you say? It's the first movie with Freddy Krueger that can, he was a, what was it? He killed children, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was killed by townspeople, and he's come back from the, he's like a sort of a demonic spirit with, blades, hand blades, and Freddy Krueger. But come on, what can you say about Nightmare? Who hasn't seen Nightmare on Elm Street? But anyway, yep. Wes Craven's intelligent premise combined with the horrifying visual appearance of Freddy Krueger still causes nightmares to this day. And of course, yeah, the movie and all the sequels and just the character of Freddy Krueger who became one of the most famous franchise horror characters. You know, him and Jason and Leatherface, whatever. Freddy Krueger. That the film, you know, starts out being really creepy and serious, and you know, and then he becomes more sort of comic bookish as the movies went on, to where almost he was, you know, kids had lunch pails with Freddy Krueger on them, you know. But this first one is really, well, really creepy, very effective. Of course, Wes Craven, so many horror films that he made. But anyway, Nightmare on Elm Street. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you strip it down, it's basically just a movie about the boogeyman, you know. But the unique design of the character and all the kind of bizarre visuals, you know, some of it's funny, some of it's creepy. I do, like you said, I prefer this version of Freddy before he became this pop culture icon and was on every TV show making cameos and, you know, advertising, and just before he was this just kind of wisecracking pop culture character, you know.
He had a cartoon series.
Yeah, you know, the first two movies I think stand alone somewhat because of that, but yeah, I mean, it's a classic. There's not much you can say about it that hasn't been said 1,000 times. It's good. If you haven't seen it, see it.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street, 94% score. Wes Craven, of course, number 48, 1984. I don't think I have seen this film. A girl walks home alone at night. I'm assuming that's what happens in the film. 2014, 96% score. A girl walks home alone at night, blends conventional elements into something brilliantly original, and serves as a striking calling card for writer-director Anna Lily Amirpour. But I haven't seen this. 96% score. A girl walks home alone at night. 2014.
Haven't seen it either. Looks interesting,
Yeah.
But
okay. Yeah, number 47. 96% score. I watched this recently. I think it's on Shudder. That's where I watched it, on Shudder. Oddity. 2024. 96% score. Damian McCarthy directed. An elegant and spooky ghost story punctuated with clever jokes. Oddity hews to the fundamentals of fright and achieves shout-inducing results. Yeah, I thought this was really creepy, well done, and characters acting in sort of oddball ways. But I like the way that it was done. The way characters talk to each other and interact with each other is kind of odd, kind of askew, where, you know, you have this woman coming to this woman coming to visit her brother and her and his wife at this home, and as a gift, she gives them this full-size wooden mannequin with a stretched out face like it's screaming, and they're like, "What the fuck?" You know, what the fuck are you bringing this for? You know, but it turns out to be a revenge story, a sort of kind of a ghost story, there's a kind of a monster movie, effectively done, and like I say, kind of odd, kind of askew is the best way I could put it. The way characters interact with each other, and particularly the I forget the actress's name. Gwilyn Lee, Carolyn Breaker. I'm not sure who the woman's name. The woman that comes with this, you know, this full-size mannequin thing. But her performance is really good, and she's odd and weird, but it comes to a creepy conclusion. And I love the final shot of this movie. I'm not going to say what it is. But anyway, have you seen it on it?
Have not seen this one yet.
Yeah, well, put it on your list. It's on Shudder. But yeah, it's well done. It's creepy. Um, it's definitely something you should watch. Yeah. Oddity. 96% score. And a pretty recent film. Yeah. Okay. And here's another one. I've seen about 10 minutes of it, and I need to go back to it, but it's a subtitle movie that sometimes I'm not in the mood for a subtitle movie. But I've heard that it's really well done. But this is When Evil Lurks, 2023, 96% score. Demian Rugna, I know I'm mispronouncing it, a hard-hitting horror film whose surface-level frights are just as engaging as its thematic concerns. When Evil Lurks marks a viscerally unsettling addition to the possession horror canon. But yeah, like I said, I've seen about 10 minutes of When Evil Lurks. So,
Yeah, this one. This has my best I can describe it is it has. It's kind of like the Evil Dead remake in terms of like gore and intensity and demonic possession and stuff like that. That stuff, the effects and the gore, the horror elements in it are really, really effective. The story falls a little flat for me. The story didn't do a lot for me, but it's definitely not bad. And yeah, if you like effects, especially if you're into like practical effects and stuff, definitely worth a watch for that stuff. But I didn't think it was different, but not super effective. I don't think it's anything I'd watch again.
Okay, but that's number 44. No, number 45. When Evil Lurks, 96% score, 2023. I haven't seen number 44. Under the Shadow, 2016, 99% score. Babak Anvari directed. I know, I've screwed these names up. Under the Shadow definitely blends seemingly disparate genres to deliver an effective chiller with timely themes and thought-provoking social subtext. 99% score. 2016, Under the Shadow. I haven't seen it.
I saw this. I hated it. It was it was. I thought it was boring. Kind of poorly written. I mean, yeah, the themes are very interesting and timely, dealing with the Iran-Iraq war and stuff like that. That stuff's interesting, but at the end of the day, it's mainly just like a haunted house movie and not a very good one in my opinion. I think it's very overrated.
Okay. Number 44, Under the Shadow, 99% score, 2016. I don't think I've seen number 43. And this is Cure, 1997, 94% score. Mesmerizing and psychologically intriguing. That's all they have to say about that. And Koyashi Kurosawa. I can't believe I haven't seen this with that director, but I don't think I've seen Cure. 94% score.
I saw it when it came out on DVD a million years ago, and I honestly don't remember anything about it. I mean, I remember, his movies like Pulse and Penance and stuff like that, but yeah, I don't remember anything about this, so I can't really comment.
Okay, well, it's number 43, Cure, 94% score, 1997. This is a recent movie that I really want to see, but I have not seen. Strange Darling, 2023. J.T. Mulner delivers a thrillingly unexpected and electric ride with two breakout performances by Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner in Strange Darling. J.T. Mulner directed, but I haven't seen it. I really want to see it because I've heard it's great. But anyway, 95% score. Strange Darling.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Haven't seen it, but I really, really want to see it. Heard nothing but great things.
Yeah. I think basically it's a serial killer and something like that. But yeah, the it's this one and Long Legs that I've been wanting to see the most lately.
Hmm.
Yeah, Strange Darling and Long Legs. But anyway, but I haven't seen Strange Darling. But anyway, 95% score, Strange Darling, 2023, number 42. Um, I don't think I've seen number 41. And this is Border, 2018, 97% score. Ali Abbasi directed. Thrilling, unpredictable, and brilliantly acted. Border, and it's got in parentheses, Grams, offers a singular treat to genre fans looking for something different. I haven't seen Border. So.
Never heard of it.
Okay. 2018 Border, 97% score. So, number 41. Number 40 is another one that has been so long since I've seen it. I don't remember all the details of it, even though I thought it was very effectively done. And this is Peeping Tom, 1960, 95% score. Michael Powell directed. Peeping Tom is a chilling, methodical look at the psychology of a killer and a classic work of voyeuristic cinema. And yeah, this is, kind of before Psycho, in early, version of basically about a peeping Tom, about, a very psychological psychopath. But anyway, 1960 to handle this kind of character and do it in this kind of way was kind of groundbreaking at the time. But it's been so long since I've seen Peeping Tom. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of only remember bits and pieces, but just the whole concept of him, for those who haven't seen it, he kills women using a tripod that has like a sharpened, one of the legs is like a sharpened stake. And he'll film them as he's killing them.
You get the POV shots.
Yeah. And next to the camera, he has a mirror. So the woman being killed can see her own face as she's being killed. It's pretty fucked up, especially for 1960. It's the kind of thing you'd see in like a bizarre giallo film, years later. Yeah, it's. I mean, I remember it being super creepy and cool,
But yeah, that's one I definitely need to revisit. But yeah, Michael Powell directed, Peeping Tom, 1960, 95% score, number 40. I don't think I've seen this. If I have, I don't remember it. And this is The Innocents, 1961, 95% score. Jacques Clayton directed, creepily atmospheric. The Innocents is a stylishly crafted, chilling British ghost tale with Deborah Kerr at her finest. I don't remember The Innocents.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I've read the novel that it's based on, but I've never seen the movie.
But anyway, 95% score, 1961, The Innocents, number 39. Another one I need to see, I really want to see, but I still have not seen, Talk to Me, 2023. With a gripping story and impressive practical effects, Talk to Me spins a terrifyingly creepy 21st century horror yarn built on classic foundations. Danny Philippou, Michael Philippou, brothers, I'm assuming. I know I'm mispronouncing the names. But anyway, it's Talk to Me, 2023, 94% score, but I haven't seen it.
I thought this was a little overrated. It's good. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. The acting is very good. My biggest problem is that it is 95% a melodrama and maybe 5% a horror film. And the horror element is very kind of predictable. They put kind of a new spin on it by treating like a haunting as like a party game, but Yeah, I mean, it's worth checking out. I think most people I've talked to liked it better than I did. Um, but it is different and it's well made. So
Okay. But yeah, that's Talk to Me 2023, 94% score. Number 38. Uh, okay. Number 37. I don't really consider it to be a horror film. It's a classic monster movie, and that's Godzilla. 1954, 94% score. Ishiro Honda directed More Than Straight Monster Movie Fare. Gojira, and that's the original pronunciation of the movie. Gojira offers potent, sobering post-war commentary. And yeah, that's it. Of course, it's after World War One, and we dropped the bombs on Japan, and it's kind of their commentary about nuclear war and what can happen if you fuck with the world and mess with and nuclear weapons, and it's Godzilla. Come on.
yeah,
But but anyway, I'm not going to try to pronounce all the names in this. But yeah, number 37, Godzilla, 94% score, 1954. Of course, it's a classic. And I still think, even though it's a man in a suit, it's still really well done. It's well shot, effective. I watch Godzilla, and I don't really see a man in a suit. I see Godzilla.
yeah,
But anyway, what do you have to say about Godzilla?
yeah. I think, like you said, I don't think it's really a horror movie, but I think it does, for all its, like you said, man in rubber suitness. It does a good job of capturing that feeling of despair uh, that you would imagine the Japanese people felt post-war, and just the kind of despair that you see explored even further in Godzilla minus one, the newer film.
Yeah, definitely would recommend that one.
Yeah, yeah.
And watch the black and white version.
Yes. But yeah, I think this would make a great double feature with Godzilla minus one. Especially if you're not super familiar with Godzilla or only familiar with him as like a goofy pro wrestler type, monster. Yeah, I mean, this is some sad, tragic stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I agree with everything you've said. And that's Godzilla 1954, 94% score, number 37. And I spoke about this film earlier when we were talking about Dracula. And I think this is one of the most creepiest films ever put on film, or creepiest films ever made. And this is Freaks, Todd Browning's Freaks, 1932, 95% score. Time has been kind to this horror legend. Freaks manages to frighten, shock, and even touch viewers in ways that contemporary viewers missed. Yeah, you have the old sideshow, and you have dwarfs and people with different physical deformations. You've got a man with no arms and legs. And the two main characters, the two dwarf characters, I think are really good. And great last sort of half of this film is really creepy when the freaks get their revenge. Very well directed by Todd Browning. And it goes places that during this time, 1932, that's must have been pretty shocking and pretty unsettling way back then. I can imagine people seeing this in 1932 and what they were thinking,
Yeah.
But yeah, Todd Browning's Freaks, 95% score, Yeah, I watched it recently. I think it's on AMC Plus. Uh, yeah, uh, yeah.
I
I
think
would. I don't know if it's a horror film, but I guess it makes me feel very unnerved, and it's very creepy and very unsettling. So yeah, I guess kind of like with Eraserhead, I would consider this a horror film. And it makes me feel kind of in the same way, or it gives me sort of almost the same feeling that Eraserhead gives Freaks. So,
for me, what I think is most interesting about this movie is, especially nowadays, people might look at it and accuse Browning of exploiting these people. And on a certain level, he does. It's called Freaks. He casts real so-called freaks in it to get people to come to the theater and get their butts in the seats. But the so-called freaks in this film are all like lovely people. They're all
he treats them very uh, he treats them like real people with
yeah,
he treats them as a family.
yeah. They're all they're not monsters. If anything, the point of this film is that the so-called normal people are much bigger monsters than these people.
Right, right.
The real SOBs are the normal people.
Yeah.
And that I think is one of the great things. I mean, they do some questionable things around the end of the movie, but uh, uh, it's totally understandable why they do what they do. And yeah, I think it's one of the reasons I think it's still a great film.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, definitely it's a classic. And number 36, Freaks, 1932, 95% score. Todd Browning, of course, is directed. Um, and I don't think I've seen this. This is 1932's Vampire, or Vampire. It's Vampyr. So Vampire, uh, 98% score, 98% score, full of disorienting visual effects. Carl Theodor Dreyer's Vampire is as theoretically unsettling as it is conceptually disturbing. Carl Theodor Dreyer directed, 1932, 98% score. I don't think I've seen this.
No, this is another classic I haven't seen. I've seen some clips, in documentaries and stuff like that. It's very beautiful looking black and white film, but I have not seen it.
Yeah. Okay, but that's number 35. I'm going to call it Vampire, but it's either Vampire or Vampire. 1932, 98% score. Okay, well, talk about a classic. You can't get much more classic than Frankenstein. 1931, 94% score. James Whale directed. Still unnerving to this day, Frankenstein adroitly explores the fine line between genius and madness and features Boris Karloff's legendary frightening performance as the monster. And as a kid, I thought Frankenstein was the monster. I thought that's what the monster was called, Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know until much later when I saw it, much older, that Frankenstein was the creator. But yeah, what can you say about Frankenstein? Of course, it's a classic, one of the all-time, classic Universal horror. 1931, 94% score. Yeah. Come on. It's Frankenstein. What do you have to say about Frankenstein?
Yeah, I mean, it's Karloff's breakout performance. He's fantastic. It's another one of those films where the monster is the good guy, essentially, and everybody else is a big piece of crap,
Yeah.
Which, if you know much about James Whale, you can see why he would take it in that direction. I think if you're very familiar with this movie and you're not familiar with a movie called Gods and Monsters, they would make a great double feature.
Yeah,
I would say. Similar. It's kind of like that Shadow of the Vampire, kind of with Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Watch Frankenstein and Gods and Monsters.
Yeah. I agree with that too. I really like Gods and Monsters also. But yeah, of course, it's all-time classic. Oh gosh, hang on. Hang on. Okay. But anyway, 1931, Frankenstein, James Whale directed, Colin Clive, Boris Karloff, of course, as the creature. Yeah, number 34. I have not seen number 33, and that is Tigers Are Not Afraid. 2017, 97% score. Isa Lopez directed. Tigers Are Not Afraid draws on childhood trauma for a story that definitely blends magical fantasy and hard-hitting realism and leaves a lingering impact. I have not seen Tigers Are Not Afraid. 2017, 97% score.
I've not seen it either.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, yeah, number 33. Tigers Are Not Afraid. Oh gosh. The two of the best performances by a maniac in film is Robert Mitchum and Kate Fear and Robert Mitchum in Night of the Hunter, 1955, 93% score. Featuring Robert Mitchum's formidable performance as a child hunting preacher, Night of the Hunter is a disturbing look at good and evil. And Charles Laughton directed, who was an actor, and this is the only film he ever directed. And after this, I'm like, man, he should have directed a dozen films.
Well, it was a big flop at the time.
Yeah. Great direction by Charles Laughton. And God, Robert Mitchum, Shelley Winters. There's some great shots in this film. And one of the most chilling moments in this film is Shelley Winters dead underwater. She's been put in a car and driven off into a lake. And you have this shot of Shelley Winters' dead body in this car. And it just lingers on her underwater. I can just imagine how long she had to hold her breath for this shot. But it's a chilling shot. And just great direction by Robert Laughton. Like I say, after seeing this film, it's like, I can't believe this is the only film he ever directed. But God, Robert Mitchum as this insane preacher that basically finds women and marries them and kills them and steals their money and moves on. And he finds this woman whose husband has been recently put into prison, and their two kids, a boy and a girl, and the little girl has got a doll that's got a bunch of money stuffed in this doll, and of course the brother is telling her to keep that a secret. It's something that their father stole money. Our father stole, but he's in prison, and here comes Robert Mitchum. The Shelley Winters, Lillian Gish. I love Lillian Gish in this film. Evelyn Varden. But anyway, as a movie about a performance, a very chilling, very creepy, gripping performance. Robert Mitchum in Night of the Hunter. 1955, 93% score. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Beautifully made. Fantastic acting. The only thing I would maybe add is that I do think after the first act, the story itself does kind of go downhill for me. Because it's just so creepy at the beginning, and then it just kind of becomes this kind of chase movie, and then you get into they run into the old Christian woman with her homespun.
There was a Lillian Gish.
Yeah, and then there's some cartoony moments in there. That doesn't work for me as much. But I mean, the good definitely outweighs the bad.
Yeah. But yeah, see it for Robert Mitchum. If nothing else, see it for Robert Mitchum's performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Night of the Hunter, 1955, 93% score. And like I say, Charles Lawton, who was an actor, but he fantastic direction by him. Yeah. Okay. Well, you had spoke earlier about how you hadn't seen any of the Quiet Place films. You didn't have a strong interest in seeing them. Yeah, and you're not a big fan of John Krasinski. And
I couldn't tell you why. It's just something about him.
Yeah. But no, this is Quiet Place 2, 2021, 91% score, a nerve-wracking continuation of its predecessor, A Quiet Place Part 2, expands the terrifying world of its franchise without losing track of its heart. And it's a John Krasinski directed, Emily Blunt, Cillian Murphy. 91% score. I personally really enjoy it. And it goes back at the beginning of the movie. You see where the aliens come from and how they invade Earth and learn that they kill. They can't see, but they kill by sound. So you can't make a noise. You have to be quiet, walk around barefoot. But no, it's effective, I think. Very well directed. The creatures are really well done. But yeah, if you're a fan of the first one, I think you would like this one. Quiet Place Part 2, 2021, 91% score. And that's number 31. Number 30, I think is Leigh Whannell. This is The Invisible Man, 2020, 91% score. Smart, well acted, and above all scary, The Invisible Man proves that sometimes the classic source material for a fresh reboot can be hiding in plain sight. Yeah, I thought this was well done. There's a moment where what is it? Elizabeth Moss. I think it's Elizabeth Moss, and she's I think at a restaurant talking to her sister, and then suddenly a knife appears in her hand, and she slashes her sister's throat. I think, and then of course it's not her doing it herself. She's her husband has been doing experiments with invisibility, and kind of loses his mind and stalks his wife. She tries to run away from him, and stalks his wife, and of course he's invisible. Good effects, good special effects. And of course it's all CGI, but I think it's well done. But anyway, The Invisible Man, 2020, 91% score. And I know I mispronounced the name. Leigh Whannell.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah, this is a great update. I think, super, super creepy and a lot of tension. And yeah, that restaurant scene is very shocking. That really catches you off guard.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very impressed with this movie. And I know he's making that Wolfman remake, but I don't know. The stuff I've seen about that doesn't look so great. But if it's anything like this, it'll be a lot of fun, I think. But yeah, this is I bought this right when it came out after I saw it because I liked it so much.
But anyway, yeah, this is Invisible Man 2020, 91% score. Number 30. Okay, well, I think we're going to end with number 29. And my goodness, for a lot of people, this would be number 2 or 3 or something like that. And this is Night of the Living Dead. Of course, George Romero, Dwayne Jones, Judith O'Dea, Keith Wayne, Cole Hardman. George A. Romero's debut set the template for the zombie film and features tight editing, realistic gore, and a sly political undercurrent. 95% score, 1968, Night of the Living Dead. I'm not even going to say a whole lot about this movie other than it's a classic, of course. And and the movie that kind of well, George Romero always said that I Am Legend influenced him greatly in making this film. He kind of almost in a way remakes I Am Legend with Night of the Living Dead. But he certainly puts his own spin on it and sort of invents the zombie, the dead resurrected to life and feasting on human flesh. Great for its time, great direction, great ending, shocking ending that, with Dwayne Jones, that's like the hero of the story, and what happens to him at the very end of this movie is like the direction that George Romero takes this film. The ending is surprising and unsettling, and and one of his early films to kind of make commentary about man's inhumanity to man and that kind of thing. But anyway, Night of the Living Dead. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I mean it's almost a perfect film, and it's definitely one of those films that changed everything. I think the only thing that doesn't really hold up is Barbara's character being essentially catatonic through the whole film. That's kind of disappointing, but I mean that's a pretty minor quibble considering how seminal the rest of the movie is.
Yeah.
And, I know he says he didn't intend for this movie to make a political statement or whatever, but I mean, maybe it was subconscious, but I mean, I don't know how you make that ending and not consider that to be intentionally in some way a political statement. But yeah, I mean, it's a classic. It'll always be a classic.
Yeah. And and I know I should know the story about why this movie is public domain and they didn't make the money that they needed to make from this film. Something wasn't done right. But all-time classic and one of the best horror films ever made. Night of the Living Dead, of course. 1968, 95% score. George Romero. Okay, we'll end with 29. I think we may be able to finish this up with our next show.
I think so.
Because we're at number 28. But yeah, that's a good way to end Night of the Living Dead, I think. And let's see. Okay. But you guys, thank you for watching. As always, I ask you if you would please give us a thumbs up and spread the word. Let other folks know about the show. And I think we'll do one more of this list of the Rotten Tomatoes list horror films. And then I've been talking to Dwayne about maybe doing some more shows with him, talking about just the best films. There's a IMDb list of just the best films, period, that I think would be interesting to get into, because we can go about all kinds of different films and different styles of films. Okay, I guess we'll end here with Night of the Living Dead, and let's everybody treat each other fair and treat everybody nicely and enjoy life, and get ready for 4 more years of Donald Trump. And like I say, I'm hopeful about the future. What can you do but hope? But okay, Dwayne, I'm going to let you go and let you guys go. Thank you for watching. And like I say, please give us a thumbs up. Please spread the word. And we will see you again soon. Bye-bye.